Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to another Nether Update Snapshot video. This is Minecraft Java Edition Snapshot 20W07A, which was released on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And as you can see, love is not necessarily in the air, but particles and stuff are. Today we're going to be taking a look at some brand new stuff that has been added to the Nether Update Snapshots in the form of Piglins and some actual AI and behaviors for Hoglins. So let's dive right into it. In this snapshot and in presumably all forthcoming snapshots, as you wander around the Nether Wastes and Crimson Forests, you will encounter these handsome looking chaps. These are the new Piglin mob. They are kind of like the Nether's equivalent of villagers, but a little bit more crude and a little bit more potentially hostile to the player. As you can see, they're carrying crossbows. I'm in creative mode right now, so this one doesn't have his crossbow aimed at me, but they will typically attack the player unless the player is wearing gold armor. So I'm going to spawn myself in a little bit of diamond armor just so I can demonstrate this without getting completely shot to death, and then we'll try on the gold set as well to see if that makes a significant difference here. There we go, I'm all covered up with diamond armor. I'm going to put myself in survival mode, and as you'll see, the piglins immediately draw their crossbows and start to become hostile to me as a player. So I think this guy is probably going to try and take a couple of pot shots. Yeah, there we go, he's not too happy with me invading his territory. It's basically like tangling with pillagers at this point, although they don't seem to quite have the bullseye aim that the pillagers did. Maybe it's because I'm running around too much. Anyway, once you start to take a little bit of damage, you might end up getting a bit annoyed with this, so switching to gold armor is the ideal way of making sure these guys do not attack you. They are kind of more respectful of gold and will become neutral to you effectively as soon as you put the gold armor on. Although I'm still fairly certain that if you attack them, they're still going to be hostile to anybody wearing gold armor. So you might be wondering exactly how much gold armor is necessary for these folks to see you as a respectable member of society, and I'm happy to report that right now I'm only wearing a gold chestplate, and despite the arrows sticking out of my head from our previous encounter, this Piglin is behaving absolutely neutral to me. And that's going to allow me to explore the next aspect of Piglins, which is the fact that they get very excited when you have gold ingots, and you can actually use gold ingots to kind of barter or trade with them, although they will kind of run away from the zombified versions of themselves, so I think that guy is just kind of trying to keep his safe distance. Anyway, we will talk a little bit more about zombie pigmen, because you'll probably be happy to learn that they are not going away, they're just changing in appearance slightly, which is not reflected in this current snapshot. Now, these guys, if you right-click on them with a gold ingot, will immediately throw some items at you, and these seem to be a random selection of things based on the types of materials that you could reasonably acquire in the Nether, and a couple of things that are going to help you out while you are surviving here. I can throw a gold ingot on the ground for this guy as well, and he will walk over to it, pick it up, inspect it for a second or two, and throw an item on the ground immediately, making sure that I can claim that. So that's kind of cool. They take a second or two to basically cool down from having received a gold ingot, and then they are once again ready to trade once they are looking back up and around them again. And they actually toss you a great variety of stuff. Let me put away all of the stuff that's in my inventory right now, although that's going to make him hostile to me, so let me quickly switch to creative mode again. And we will see in this chest here, I've done a bit of trading with the piglins so far, and there's a significant amount of stuff that they will barter with you. They will throw you between 1 and 4, it seems like, of most of these items. There's probably some weight to certain items depending on the rarity and so forth. They gave me the most amount of flint and rotten flesh, but as you'll see, they're also trading me blocks, things like gravel, soul sand, and shroom lights, which can now be found in the warped and crimson forests underneath the canopies of those nether wart trees. They will also trade you things like leather and pork chops, which you can get from Hoglins, which we'll go into in a second, nether bricks, individual nether bricks rather than blocks of the stuff, ender pearls that they've presumably got from hunting down some endermen, the mushrooms that are found growing casually in the nether, and also crimson and warped fungi, which are significant because there was no real way of getting those renewably before. You couldn't just bone meal the nylium in order to grow crimson fungi, and those are necessary to make these warped and crimson trees renewable, so it's kind of useful that we can somehow get those, and it seems like the pigmen are the source of that. They will also in a significant move, trade you fire charges, which is a surefire way of being able to relight a nether portal that might have been blown up by a nearby ghast. Let's say, for the sake of example, that this nether portal ends up getting broken and you are stuck without a flint and steel or really any means to light it other than baiting ghasts into fireballing you once again, which is often a difficult and dangerous process. Trading a single gold ingot with a piglin might net you a fire charge, which you can simply use with a right click to relight the portal and return to the overworld. So the fact that they will trade fire charges is actually pretty significant. Now, despite the fact that we are wearing gold armor right now and we've traded with some of these piglins, they can actually be a little bit hostile to anybody who is seen mining a block of gold or opening a chest. If they see you opening a chest, they will actually open fire on you or try and attack you with any swords they have equipped, and basically any other piglins in the surrounding area are going to join in the fight. They don't tend to pass aggro between them in the same way that zombified piglins do. See, this guy here is actually completely ignoring me, but his friends are pretty determined to turn me into mincemeat at this point. Having said that, though, they get very distracted by gold items, apparently. So if you end up throwing down some gold armor or a gold ingot that you happen to have picked up along the way, you might find that they get distracted by that and they'll be more interested in picking up the item than continuing to chase you. If you happen to run into a Crimson Forest biome, you'll probably encounter a few of these guys, the Hoglins. And Piglins and Hoglins kind of have this ecosystem together where piglins will group together and actually hunt down some Hoglins for food every time they get hungry. Sort of like villagers, they do need food occasionally, although they don't really need it all of the time. So as you can see, these piglins here are actually acting fairly neutral towards the Hoglins, whereas occasionally they might decide to go in and attack a Hoglin, and when they do, every piglin in the surrounding area is probably going to get in on the action. These guys like to hunt in packs, which is kind of a behavior that makes sense when you consider how zombie pigmen work. There we go, folks, the hunt is on. The piglins are hunting down the Hoglin below us, and I've gone into survival mode to see if I can assist in the fight. I've got a gold chestplate on, so the piglins won't see me as a threat, but as you can see, a turf war has broken out, and the piglins, interestingly enough, right now, actually take damage from fire, which is unlike any other nether mob. Zombie pigmen do not, wither skeletons do not, even ghasts that fly through lava streams do not take any damage, and so it is singular of the piglin that they are not really affected by fire damage right now. Now, clad in my diamond suit with no enchantments, I'm going to see how easy it is to take on one of the Hoglins, because, yeah, they do have a little bit of a lift to their attacks. They will actually lift you off the ground, and I'm having a little bit of a tough time right now. In fact, it seems like the piglins over here aren't too happy with me invading their turf either, because they are actually firing their crossbows at me when I try and take on those Hoglins. And it's a good thing we're back in the overworld, because there is a really interesting behavior of piglins that I kind of want to demonstrate here, and that is the fact that they're sort of allergic to the overworld. If you pop down a piglin in the overworld using a spawn egg, or if a piglin happens to wander through the nether portal, it will quickly turn into a zombie pigman, or in the full release, it's going to be a zombified piglin. Piglins are actually going to transform to the extent where they become zombies in the overworld, which is kind of significant because that means it's going to be more difficult for you to establish an overworld trading hall with piglins. And if you want a piglin trading hall, you're going to be better off setting one up inside the nether itself. You will notice them shaking a little bit and making slightly panicked sounds. Their retreating noises, as you can see, are coming up in the subtitles, and right here I've put a block over this guy's head. It doesn't seem to matter. It's not a sunlight effect like it is with zombies burning in the daylight, that kind of thing. It does just seem to be a straight-up transformation as soon as they enter this dimension. And just out of curiosity here, I'm going to set up an end portal and see if the same effect happens in the end, because obviously it would be kind of tricky getting piglins to the overworld via a stronghold and then getting them into the end, but if the effects don't take over at that point when you're in the end with piglins, then the end might also be a slightly safer place to set up a piglin trading hall than around the nether. And having teleported myself out here into the outer end islands, just so we have a little bit of peace and quiet from that very noisy dragon, let's see what happens here. He is not shaking. As far as I can tell, the piglins are unaffected by being here in the end. So it isn't just the fact that they are native to the nether and don't want to leave, it seems to be a genuine reaction to them being in the overworld. So if you want to drag some piglins really quickly through the stronghold into the end, you might actually have a chance of setting up a piglin village in the end islands, which is kind of a cool concept. Once again though, if your piglins happen to encounter zombie pigmen, they will probably try and keep their distance. So zombie pigmen, while they aren't hostile to piglins and they won't try and zombify them the way zombies will attempt to attack villagers, they are still kind of creeped out by them. Another thing you will find that creeps piglins out is soulfire. They really don't like this stuff and try and stay as far away from it as possible. So you won't typically find them wandering into soul sand valleys. And if you acquire a little bit of soul soil and light it with a flint and steel, you can probably use that as a nice easy deterrent for piglins, and that's going to be significant for players who want to build a zombie pigman gold farm, or maybe even farm the piglins, because they will not pack aggro on you in the same way that zombie pigmen will, and you'll find that they spawn in the same biomes as zombie pigmen, which, as far as I can tell, also includes the roof of the Nether. So adding in a few soulfires or strategically placed zombie pigmen might potentially guide the piglins into whatever trap you happen to want to set up for them. Hoglins, on the other hand, suffer no such problems. They are absolutely fine coming out into the overworld, into the Nether, the End, wherever you happen to have a Hoglin. They are frankly kind of adorable, and they don't seem to suffer any ill effects. There is no zombified Hoglin. Baby Hoglins and baby piglins can also coexist quite harmlessly. The changelog for this update says that they are going to play together, although I mostly see these baby piglins kind of keeping their distance and not necessarily avoiding the guy, but not really coming up to him either. I don't think the adults will hunt down babies, since most baby mobs do not give you any kind of drops. They are really after the adult Hoglins if they want to do any damage whatsoever. For another quick experiment, it's going to be interesting to see how piglins react to wither skeletons being in their midst, because they will actually be incredibly aggressive towards wither skeletons and attack them as soon as they can. Now, the wither skeletons do fight back, especially if they have larger numbers. You will start to notice some of these piglins actually taking damage once aggro has been drawn, but as you can see, they're pretty good at taking down wither skeletons, especially if they've got crossbows and can attack from range. This is of course going to be beneficial to players who would benefit from wither skeleton drops. However, it seems like the piglins attacking this guy isn't going to count as strictly a player kill, and it's not going to be a way of farming wither skeleton skulls automatically. You can get all the bones and coal you want, but you'll still have to fight a wither skeleton yourself if you want to get the skull. And I have to admit, I am kind of curious to see what happens if you summon the wither around these guys, so let's find out, shall we? Yep, it certainly looks to me like they aren't too keen on the wither either, and they are trying to take it down with their crossbows, although I have to say at this stage, it seems like the wither is winning. Although it's kind of cool that we can use this to show something I'd forgotten about wither roses, and that's that if you end up fighting the wither on netherrack and it kills mobs nearby, the wither roses actually get planted on the netherrack instead of just dropping as items. Imagine this scenario. You step through your nether portal for the first time with a stack of torches and your first diamond pickaxe, probably only clad in some fairly basic gear, and you find yourself staring down the barrel of a pair of Hoglins. They look kind of aggressive, and you know that they are going to be doing some damage. However, it's actually possible to avoid Hoglin contact if you can quickly find yourself one of these warped fungi, because Hoglins apparently dislike the smell of warped fungi, and if you place it on the ground near them, they are likely to try and get out of the way quite quickly. It doesn't seem to have the same effect when held in the player's hand, so you can hardly wield it against them as a weapon, but if you place a warped fungi on the nylium nearby, they are going to be more likely to want to avoid that than they are to tangle with the player. And using that, you can probably create a quick barrier around yourself to make sure that you can keep the Hoglins at a safe distance. Just to illustrate my point here, I'm going to go into survival and try and bait these Hoglins towards me, and they will become aggressive to the player quite quickly. As you can see, these two are kind of keen to get a piece of me, but as soon as I walk back into my little barrier of mushrooms here, they turn around and walk the other way. It is a fairly straightforward deterrent, probably similar to the way that creepers will try and pathfind away from cats and that kind of thing. They just don't want to come near me at this point. Baby Hoglins, on the other hand, will not act aggressive towards a player. They will kind of snort and run around a little bit, but to be honest, they don't seem to do any damage to the player right now. They are mostly just keen to look a little bit tough. As far as what the Hoglins drop, the drops are actually kind of ordinary right now. You're only going to find a couple of pork chops and some leather, as though you've just killed a pig and a cow in the overworld, which I think is kind of a shame. I kind of wanted them to drop something a little bit more unique. It sort of makes sense that they'll be able to drop these things because they might be something you need to survive in the Nether, but even so, I was hoping for some sort of special Hoglin meat that might make a slightly bigger steak and heal up more food. But if you're feeling brave and you want to farm and breed Hoglins, they actually eat eat crimson fungi. So unlike the fact that they will try and avoid the warped fungi, crimson fungi are their favorite food, and of course once you feed 2 of them they get into love mode and they start producing baby hoglins. So effectively what you've got at that point is a pork chop farm in the Nether, and some people have already exploited this to great effect, making a pork chop farm that is far faster than anything you're going to find in the overworld. Another change that's worth noting from this snapshot is that netherite blocks can now be used as the basis for any tier of beacon. Not only that, but a single netherite ingot can now be used to fuel a beacon if you're an absolute mad lad, because to be honest this is going to be the most expensive thing that it would be possible to power a beacon with. But if you want haste 2 in the nether, or regeneration, or swiftness, or basically anything you want in your nether base, it is now possible to build a full tier 4 beacon out of netherite blocks. Bear in mind though that 1 netherite block is 9 netherite ingots, which already probably feels like more netherite than I will see in my entire lifetime. Not only that, but the netherite scraps required to make netherite ingots, that's 4 netherite scraps and 4 gold ingots per netherite ingot, means that you would end up mining 5,904 ancient debris in order to get enough netherite blocks to build this, not even counting the netherite you're probably going to need to use to upgrade your tools to mine out all of that netherrack and find the ancient debris in the first place. I haven't done a great deal of ancient debris mining in the snapshot, so I'm not certain how accurate this is, but some folks I've spoken to who have just mined for ancient debris casually rather than, blast the nether out using TNT or anything like that, have estimated that they probably gather around 30 ancient debris per hour using standard strip mining methods. Now, multiply that, of course, by the amount we have to gather to make a full netherite beacon, and you're looking at about 200 hours worth of work just to find that amount of ancient debris. Now, there are probably going to be faster, more efficient ways to farm it, but for the average player, that is a mammoth amount of effort just for the weirdest flex of all time. So while this snapshot may still see a little bit of rebalancing, it is interesting to see some of the new changes, and I really like the fact that Hoglins now have a bit of personality, and Piglins are finally in the game after hearing about them at Minecon. We're going to see another change in the near future in terms of zombie pigmen taking the form of zombified piglins, but all that's going to be changing about them is the head shape and the name. Nothing else about zombie pigmen is reportedly changing. According to the developers, they're going to keep them all the same, and I imagine that is probably to make sure they don't end up breaking technical players' gold farms and that kind of stuff. It remains to be seen how much impact ordinary piglins are going to have on farms like that, but like I said, there will probably end up being a bit of a workaround in terms of them running away from zombie piglins or just running away from soulfire. But that is all we're going to cover in this snapshot overview. I want to thank you for watching this episode of our little snapshot overview series here. Thank you so much for the support on these videos. It really means a lot. Don't forget to leave a like on the episode if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.